Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and today I'm excited to do a video on the Infinity Game Board. Obviously you guys know I do a lot of videos on the Infinity Game Table, which is sitting right here in front of me, but this is the new smaller version that they came out with. I was able to get my hands on this early because there was a friend that I knew that actually was getting this. I'm still waiting to see if Arcade1up is going to send me one so I can showcase more games to you guys and stuff like that. We'll see how that pans out, but for right now I at least got one to unbox for you guys and give my first impressions and review over the next couple of days while he lets me borrow his while I wait to see what happens with mine. And really excited to dive into this and see how it compares to my 32-inch, of course. For today, we're just talking about the unboxing and my first initial hands-on impressions when I turn it on. But obviously, I'll be doing a comparison to the 32-inch I have here, if it's any better, if the specs are different, all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
Alright guys, so let's unbox this out of the package here. It actually says right on top, this is not retail packaging, remove it for shelf. So I feel like we're going to have a nicer box on the inside, even though this does say Infinity Game Board, right here on the box here on both sides. But it definitely doesn't seem like this is the box that's going to be on shelves. This is just the packaging. But let's go ahead and get this out of the box and open this up and see what we have and how the retail. Oh yeah, I can definitely see it's in a retail box, not like this, not sitting in this box here. So go ahead and take this out. We'll put this here to the side. See what we have going on. All right, so this is definitely a really cool and nicely designed box. I'm not gonna lie, I really like the way that this looks. I like the way that the packaging is done on here because it has all the different showcases of all the games there, right there on the front. So I think that looks really good. It says gameplay and has all the games. 50 classic games are included: Monopoly, Battleship, Scrabble, Guess Who, all the stuff that you guys know. And Monopoly's kind of plastered right there in the beginning with all the different artwork and stuff. I think the artwork on here is really, really cool. As a board game fan, I think they did a good job. And then here on the back, if you guys take a look at what that looks like there, that's the back of the design of the box here. And then it says, same great Infinity game platform with a new compact design. That's what really excites me. This 32-inch has been fantastic, and that's still more than likely going to be my favorite way to play, because obviously some games are square, so the bigger the screen, the better that thing fits on there. And I thought the 24-inch was already too small for some of those games compared to the 32-inch. That's why I'm excited to take a look at this one and see how this one plays. But what makes it exciting is this thing is just way too heavy. The 32-inch, while fantastic, is great for me to have in my game room and have sitting right here so people can play it. But bringing it to families' houses, and I do that a lot. I bring my Infinity Game Table. I brought that thing to my family's house a couple times, and it just weighs way too much. Taking the legs off, it's all a pain in the ass. This one will obviously be my portable version whenever I get my hands on my own, and that's what I'm excited about. So, same, like I said, that's what it says there on top. It says LCD, 10 points of touch, 18.5 inch, 1920 by 1080, so 1080p, 16 by 9, aspect ratio, all that kind of stuff. You see people playing, some of the games on there. Oh No is on there, which is a really good game that I've talked about. I like that game. And you got the new interface here on the back, so that looks good. You got the power and the volume button. You got all the games included on here. 50 more games available to download, and they show you some of the games on there, which looks good. They got Risk, Ticket to Ride, Pandemic, Tapple, the marquee games that you would expect them to show off are kind of being shown off on there. But let's go ahead and dive into this. So again, what really makes me excited about this, so I'll tell you guys right off the bat already, these specs on this thing are exactly the same as far as the internals. So unfortunately, they decided not to go with like upgrading the CPU or anything like that. It's the exact same CPU that's sitting on the 32-inch that I have. It's going to be the same thing here. But what I am excited about, and what I've heard some rumblings on, is that even though that's true, that the CPU and nothing about that has been upgraded, is that the fact that this thing is now sitting on an 18.5-inch screen and it's not using the big 32-inch screen, apparently the touch sensitivity is still much better. Probably because the quality of the screen that they're using on this one, or a different type of screen, whatever it may be. I talked about it when I did my review that like when you drag icons, or when you drag things in board games, it's a little bit behind your finger, and sometimes it's more noticeable than other. Most board games, that doesn't matter because you're just playing board games and moving pieces around, no big deal. But for games like air hockey that they have on here, I don't really like those games too much because it just doesn't go fast enough with your finger. So I'm excited to try those games out on here. If those work a lot better on here, that's going to be exciting for me as somebody who, likes those games, but it just didn't perform as good on the original because of that. The original is fantastic for board games because, again, that stuff doesn't matter in that circumstance. But you know, there's a selection of small games that are really fast paced, like air hockey, that I don't think play well enough on that. Here's the inside here, Infinity Game Board right there. This is sealed again, so we're gonna unseal this again right here. Opening the flap up here. Put that to the side. Alright, seeing this here for the first time, we got the Saran wrapping here. We got a nice little... Oh, love the way that this opens. I feel like they did a really good job with the packaging on this. I will give you guys a showcase of this right now so you guys can see what I'm talking about on how this flap opens. So you guys can see it says Infinity Game Board right there. And then when you open it up, you've got this really cool design right here that says Infinity Game Board. And it's got the nice artwork. They did a fantastic job, in my opinion, with all the artwork from the different games that they offer. You know, sitting on here. Really, really nice job from them. And then there is the actual tablet itself. And then here's the Infinity Game Board kind of sitting right here. So fantastic on the packaging front of this thing, showcasing the games and just showcasing a bunch of board game things that I think look fantastic. So let's take this out here. You can kind of just pull these tabs. You can pull this out of here just like this. Oops, that falls right out. Which is fine. So they got this like attached right here. We'll put that to the side for a minute just to take a look at the other things that are in this box. We got, of course, I'm assuming this is the power cord of the unit. Let's go ahead and take this out of the box here. See what we have in here. Yep, this is just the power cord itself. Just so you guys know, if you guys have the original Infinity Game Table like I do, and you guys got a battery pack, or you get one of those battery packs now, they do work on this unit, but there's no like slot to put it in like on the Infinity Game Board. There's actually an area to put it in. If you use it on here, it will work, but you'll just have to like, you know, leave it off to the side of the table. There's no like actual hole that it goes in. But power cable, nothing fancy there for that. And then of course we have the instruction manual here, and then it also comes with the same exact 4 little screens. I really wish they would have made this out of plastic instead. I mean, they do have it made out of a little bit of thick cardboard, but I still think, and it's nice that these are like the appropriate size for this table because I have the original ones, but it's basically just cardboard that you can like put as like a blocker that you kind of just like fold up like this. That way you can kind of put it on the table and then like block people from looking at your cards or things like that. I wish they were made out of plastic, but I guess I'll have to source them out of Etsy or something. But it is cool that they come with it at least, so you can play some of those games that require hidden information. And then, of course, you got the Infinity Game Table and the Quick Start Guide that kind of showcases everything in here. Just telling you the contents, and it includes the 4 game blockers, the charger, the Quick Start Guide. Tells you what's really cool is these things have feet that you can adjust, so we'll talk about that when we get to it. All that kind of stuff. So we'll put that here to the side as well, and that is everything that's in these boxes. Of course, it has this for the legs that it was standing on, but again, I really think they did a really nice job on the packaging here. And now that we've unboxed it, I have this in my hand, and this is really, really sharp looking as far as like the screen and stuff. We'll see what it looks like when I first power it on, but really sleek looking in my opinion. There it is right here in front of me. I think it has a really nice and sleek look. It is really small, so we'll have to see how these, I mean, it's really small compared to my 32-inch, but it does have a nice sleek profile. So we'll see how the games all work. You can see I can pull the legs here like I was talking about, which is really cool. And you can either do it on either side. So if they have like a pinball game, which they do have a pinball type game on here, it's called Versus Pinball that I did a review on. It's not pinball, but it has mechanics like pinball. You can kind of like lift these 2 legs up so it's a little higher and kind of be playing a little bit lifted. So you can play pinball that way and give you a little bit of a feel, which is cool. But just in general, you can kind of lift these legs up on 4 corners if you want to kind of, you know, manipulate the size, which is cool. Again, really, really nice design. It's got the buttons over here for the power and the button here, all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and power this on and get, you know, our first turn-on experience with this thing. All right, guys, so here's the main interface of the game board. As you guys can see here, I set it up, logged into my account. What's great is that if you already have an account, if you have another existing Infinity Game Table like I do, I just logged into my account on the game board here, and all my games appeared, and I can re-download them, no issues at all. Everything is ready to go that I was playing before, which is fantastic. And I downloaded some games here just to take a look. Obviously, you guys have seen the new interface. I've done a full video on the new interface, and the interface translates well to this new smaller table, as you guys can see here. You can go to the game store or look through your own library or look through your last played and featured games. You can go to the game store up there on top. It performs pretty much the same as the other one here. as your other table. You know, it's obviously not, like I said, the PC or the CPU inside and all that stuff is exactly the same on both, so you're not going to expect it to perform like 10 times faster or anything like that. So I'm going to show you guys some of the games here. Just a couple of them, because obviously I'll do my full review in a couple days, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But just to show you guys some comparison, a lot of people like to see, all right, what does it look like with a full board? So actually, starting up Monopoly here, I was actually surprised. So obviously, this is a much smaller table. Obviously, if I were to play a board game that has a square board in the middle, let me lower this here. If I were to play a game here that was obviously a square board game like Monopoly or some of the other games on here, yes, of course, it's going to be much smaller. That's kind of how you expect. I'm going to put the full suite of players so you guys can get an idea of what I'm talking about. But it's actually pretty playable. And putting this in the middle of the table still works pretty well. Obviously, you're not going to be able to have 6 people hovered around this table. But what I do in my case, you put this in front of a table with like 6 people gathered around the table like I am right here. Everybody can easily play. You know, I brought this. I'm bringing this to my family, you know, today actually. After me and a few friends actually played it yesterday. And it works just fine. Like I said, yes, it's a little bit more, you know, cumbersome because it's not as big for a game like this. But as you guys can see here, it really looks sharp and it looks really good. The screen quality and the screen on this, I think, is really good. I didn't think the screen quality in the 32 inch was bad either. They're all really good. But vibrant, colorful, all that stuff. It looks good. And you can see Monopoly here is pretty good. You can see here, it's this guy's turn right here to roll. So I can take the dice and just kind of spin them around. And what I have noticed, and you guys will see it when I show you other games, is the touchscreen is much more responsive on here. This must be because they're using a, you know, obviously a different screen instead of that 32 inch, because obviously it's not, they're not using a different GPU or any CPU or anything. The specs are the same, but the screen is different, and the touchscreen is definitely more responsive. And I'll show you guys that in other games, but it seems very apparent to me when selecting different things. So then the next person would go and you can see that. So yeah, Monopoly looks really good on here. Yes, obviously, if I had a choice, I'd prefer to play on a 32 inch because the board is bigger. That's obvious. But what I didn't expect is to say that this is actually really playable in this state, even with 6 people. It just means that, you know, you're not going to have 6 people surrounding the table, but if you have a table like I do and everyone sits around it, you know, when it's their turn, they sit on their respective side of the table, and it still works pretty well. Like I said, it was pretty surprising to me. It still works pretty well. And obviously the whole goal and the whole thing of this table, like for me, is the fact that I can actually play this now and bring it over to a friend's house or my family's house, which is what I like doing with these board game tables, and just playing it with them. Because obviously, you know, that 32 inch, I did bring it to my family and friends' houses a few times. But it's just way goddamn too heavy. Taking the legs off is a pain. So now, what I do is I have this, you know, I have the 32 inch set up at home. When friends come over, that's the main table that gets used if we're going to play, you know, a couple of hours of Monopoly or something for whatever reason. Obviously, I would use that table. But if I was going to bring this to a family's house, it's good to know that we can still play games that work really well. Let me show you one more here, and I'll show you more when I do my full review. This is just to give you guys an idea, but here's Ticket to Ride right here, for example. Really popular game as well. That isn't a square board. That's also like a long kind of game as well, so you guys can see how it would work when you do multiplayer. And I think it looks really good on here. And like I said, you can tell how much faster the touchscreen is actually responding. It's not perfect. It still lags behind a little bit, but it's much better than what the 32 inch was there before. It's much more responsive, and you guys can see that here, than the 32 inch was. I never thought the 32 inch was bad. I said the same thing when I had the 32 inch, and I still agree that obviously most board games don't care if you're perfectly precise because it doesn't need to be. But what is interesting is that some of the other games that are a little bit more fast twitchy fingers, like air hockey and stuff, do play better on here than they do on the bigger 32 inch because the touchscreen here and the responsiveness is better than that 32 inch version. So you can see we have a full suite of 5 players here playing Ticket to Ride. You can see the main board table just as well as you could before. There's no issues with it or anything. Obviously, you're supposed to be hiding this information right now. I'm just going to select these for players because they're not supposed to be able to see this. I said it does come with 4 blockers. I wish it came with like 6 because some of these games require 6 or just like this one requires 5. Now I'm going to have to get some blockers, but it does come with those 4 cardboard ones. But you can see here, you know, when it's your turn, there's the pile of cards. You can see it with no problem, and you can play it with no problem. No issues with it at all. You know,
and it says it's player 5 turns, and then they can do whatever they want. They can either play their card, take a look at it, whatever the case may be, and it works pretty well. Like I said, I was pretty surprised on how. Of course, I still prefer the 32-inch on a daily basis because the bigger the better when it comes to board games. But as an alternative to bringing this to my family's house, I'm never going to bring the 32-inch to my family's house again when I get one of these tables, because obviously this is much easier to carry, and the 32-inch is just too much of a pain. And this still plays really well, and that's kind of like the main thing about it. And one of the other things, like I said, that's nice about it is the legs here. So it does have the legs so it can lift up. It does have the sound. You guys heard that. It has speakers on both sides, so if you have two people sitting across from each other, they still hear the sound. It does vibrate a little bit too, like we were talking about with the haptic feedback in certain games, like Battleship and stuff. It vibrates. The table, same thing as the 32-inch, which is pretty cool. But I do want to end off by showing you guys, like I talked about before, how much more responsive it is. So I'm going to pull up a game on here and then show you it on the 32-inch. I'm going to pull up two. So first I'm going to show you Fling Hockey on here. One of my favorite games, actually. And I actually did like playing this on the 32-inch, but I knew that it was behind a little bit. But it wasn't too bad, but it was definitely not as smooth. So if I were to pull this game up and I hit solo mode and I just go ahead and play this, and this game is all about dragging pucks. You can see I can drag these pucks and kind of drag them pretty easily. Don't really have any issues with the touchscreen. It works really well. Obviously, like I said, it's not one-to-one movement where it's actually like letting me, like it's following my finger precisely if I go fast, but it works much better than that 32-inch did before. And there we go. So that works a lot better, and I'll show you a comparison to the bigger 32-inch so you guys can see it on video. But let me show you one more before we do that. I'm going to show you air hockey, or not the air hockey one, the space tennis one is the other one. So this is another one that made it hard to play before on the 32-inch because you could still play it because you're on the same even playing field if you're playing against another human player, because of course if you're both lagging a little bit, then you're both in the same playing field. But playing against the CPU right now, I will show you guys, and I'll play it on medium. You can kind of drag this here at the bottom, and it definitely follows your finger much better. And you guys will see that, when I show you the bigger version. Again, it's not perfect. If I move fast, it's still a little bit behind, but it's much closer to where you want it to be, and it makes these games much more playable. The games that I've been complaining about in reviews, like space tennis, like air hockey, like the other one I just showed you, now do play a lot better. Again, for board games, does it matter? No, because you don't need this precision on board games, but obviously for games like this that they keep putting on the table, this is a much better way to play them on this smaller table, and it works really well for two players because obviously most of these games are two players when you're talking about this fast-paced action. And like I said, it works really well, and I will definitely now play these more with people over, but just on this smaller one because these two-player games work much better. So it is great to see that these are playing much better on here than they were before. Let me show you guys the bigger 32-inch so you can see a little bit of what I'm talking about. So here's the bigger 32-inch here, and we're going to go ahead. We'll try Fling Hockey first. Again, 32-inch is much more fun because things are bigger. That's obvious when you're playing games like this, but I'm not going to lie and say that I'm pretty surprised by the smaller one here on how well it works. But here we go. So this is me grabbing this one. You can see things are a little bit slower when I drag them over here. You can see that. It's a little bit slower when you drag a piece, and it's not as smooth. See how far back that one was when I grabbed it and how far back this one is? It still works. Obviously, I just beat the computer handily on there, and it still works and there's no issues, especially if you're playing against another player at home. But some games are worse than others. Like this one is still perfectly playable on the 32-inch in my opinion. I like that game, but it is obviously noticeably slower when you're playing it. If I take a game like, where's the other one that we just played? If I take Space Tennis here, which is right here, and we'll play the exact same game again, this game will be a little bit more noticeable on how laggier, and it's not laggier, it's just that the touchscreen is not following your finger as fast as it does, is what I call it. So same exact thing, medium, and I will do the exact same thing, and you can see this one moves a little slower. So you can see this one follows your finger a little bit more behind than the other one did when I moved left to right, and you can see that here. Again, is it playable? Sure, but it's obviously not ideal for games like this when you're trying to move fast. Doesn't mean it's not perfectly playable, and it doesn't mean that you can't play with other people. But if I was going to play one of these more faster game options, then yes, I would choose the smaller version because the touchscreen follows you better. I mean, you can see that as I drag around what I'm talking about. you can see that the other one definitely performs a little bit better. And you can see that even when selecting pieces, when you drag a piece in like Monopoly and stuff, you can see that it just follows your finger a little bit faster on the other one. So, so yeah, that's one of the first things I noticed on here on the bigger table versus the smaller one is that on how it performs, you know, a little bit slower. And you could another big one that a lot of people always talked about, and I'll leave you with this one as my final one, is Simon. So this one has an update. So let's do this one real quick. Let's do this on the 32-inch one first. A lot of people complained about Simon because obviously when you played Simon, you had it so since it was like not accurately grabbing your finger when you hit Simon, it was a lot slower when you actually hit it. So you guys will see what I'm talking about here in a minute when this launches. But when you hit the colors, it you know, took a second to actually realize your finger hit it, because it's another fast-paced game. And you can see on the smaller version, you'll see that it grabs your finger much faster. So you'll see that here in a second. So here, for example, we hit Simon Says, and then I'm going to just choose a difficulty of 1. Now pay attention to when I hit the actual colors here, how it's a little bit delayed when I actually hit it. So see yellow? There's a little bit of a delay as you hit the colors. You can see there's that slight delay. If you pay attention really closely, see if I go fast, there's that slight delay. So now with that slight delay, if I go back to the smaller version here, we'll take a look. And then we have Simon right here again, and we click on Simon. We launch this one here. We'll do the exact same thing. We'll do Simon Says. We'll do level difficulty 1. See how more immediate that is? See how much faster that goes? Even if I go fast, how it actually tracks your finger faster. You can see it's a little bit more, it's just a little bit more accurate and faster to keep track of what you're actually pressing. Again, it's just a touch working a little bit better than what that one was. So you guys can see there what I'm talking about and how the tracking and stuff on this smaller version definitely works a little bit better. Again, the 32-inch version is still my preferred way to play you know, board games if I'm home, like Ticket to Ride and, you know, Monopoly or all that kind of stuff, because the touchscreen doesn't really matter in the sense of it doesn't need to be fastly tracking your finger, because board games don't care about that. Well, that was always what I said when I read the 32-inch version. However, as they started adding more games like this, the few that I just showed you, it became a little bit more apparent that, like, yeah, it's playable because you're both on the same playing field, but it's not ideal, is what the word would be, to play those games with that lagging, with that, like, not following your finger as fast as you would want it. However, on this version here, this is a fantastic two-player 18.5-inch screen where 2 players can sit across from each other and play these types of games like air hockey or fling hockey and all those other ones. And it actually performs much, much better. Again, it's not 100% perfect. Like, I guess if you compare it to an iPad or something, it's not going to follow your finger and be as smooth as those iPads or something like that. However, it is much, much better than the 32-inch version. And I think a lot of people who are going to be looking at something like that will be a lot happier with this one than the 32-inch version to play those types of games. So I'm pretty happy to see that the touchscreen responsiveness definitely improved on this one. Obviously, these are just my early impressions after unboxing it and stuff like that. So I'm going to dive into this. I'm bringing this to my family's house today. We're going to be playing some games on it, see what they think. I'll put it compared to the 32-inch. There's going to be a couple of videos coming out this week with this one. After you see this one, you'll see the 32-inch versus this one, where I go a little bit more in detail and compare more things about it, you know, with different games and stuff like that, so you can see how other games perform. If you want to see certain games on how they perform on this one versus the other one, leave those comments down below. And then, of course, I'll do my full, you know, review on this when I play it for a few days here. Let you know what I think about this overall. So, guys, I appreciate you guys for watching this video. Look for more of the videos coming in the next few days on this thing. If you have any questions that you want me to go over or anything you want to see, leave those questions down below and I'll put it in the next video. If not, thank you guys for watching. Till next time.